Hi and welcome. In this video, I will show you how to create an orchestral template in Ableton Live 12 from scratch. So of course you can do it in a similar way in other digital audio workstations, but recently Live 12 caught my attention simply because how you can build an orchestral template and work with it is absolutely amazing. So let me show you why. All you have to do is jump over here to the template section, and if you have created a template already, you not only see the template here, but you can click this little arrow here, and then it not only shows you all the folders in here, but also all the single instruments that you already created. So now let's set this up from scratch. So first load up an empty session. It may look a little bit different than mine, and make sure all your VSTIs and plugins are installed correctly. This is one of the few downsides of Live 12 because you can only have one VST2 and one VST3 folder. And just in case you have several VSTI folders spread upon your hard drive, let me show you a good solution on how to solve that. So open your settings by hitting Command and comma, hop over to plugins, and as you can see, you can only set one VST2 folder and one VST3 folder. So from my experience, the VST3 folder is not really the problem. It is most of the time the VST2 plugin folder. So I would recommend to set your main VST2 plugin folder here, which in my case is this one, but I also have two other VST2 folders that I want to get into Live 12. So as I said, I would recommend to set your main VST2 folder here and then simply create an alias of your additional folders that you have and put them into your main folder. Then Live 12 is able to read these alias files and imports all your VSTs. So once you have this done, I would recommend to make it a little bit nice and tidy for overview and better workflow. You can see these collections over here. So you can see that I renamed red to VSTs and orange to effects. And what I'm simply doing is, for example, when I see an effects, I hit right click and then I say this is effects. And when I see a VST, for example, here Diva, I can hit right click and say this is a VST. And when I check my collections over here, you can see all my VSTs or my favorites listed up and also all my effects. And it goes even deeper. When I click this little button here in Contact 7, you can see all my saved patches that I created so far. So if I, for example, want to import my nucleus sustain strings, I can simply grab this patch and drag and drop it over here. So just in case if you don't see any patches in here, let me quickly show you how to do this. I simply drag and drop Contact 7 into my session here. Then, for example, want to have my Armageddon ensemble of damage 1. I load it into Contact, and then you see this little disk button. You click this, and then you see this highlighted Contact 7 VST preset. So I simply rename it to Heaviosity Damage 1 Armageddon ensemble. Hit enter, and now when you hop over back to VSTs and open your Contact 7 folder, you got this patch in here. Again, I'm not saying that this is not possible in any other digital audio workstation, but I just like the way how it's being handled in Live 12, all within this one window over here. Okay, so now let's create our template. I'm dragging over my first Contact 7 instance here, and I don't want to waste your time by loading specific instruments into it, so I'm going to create a few empty instances of Contact here. You can simply do this by hitting Ctrl D a few times, and now let's start work with these. So assuming all of these instruments here would be strings, you can highlight these by shift clicking them, then hitting right click and simply say group tracks. And now you created a group track that is also a folder, which is really cool about Live 12. So what we want to do now is create the tracks for the brass, for example, and all we have to do is highlight the group track here and simply duplicate it. And then we have another set of Contact instruments. Now we want to repeat the same process for the woodwinds and the percussions. Now another cool feature to bring a little bit more order into the chaos is this little hide or H button here. Simply click it, and now everything looks a little bit nicer. So the next step would be to rename the group tracks here. You can right click and hit rename or Command and R. Let's name these strings. Then we have the brass and percussions. So next important step for me is always the colorization. So let's pick a nice color for the strings here. Let's go with this one. And also cool thing is if you highlight the group again, hit right click, and then you simply say assign track color to group tracks and clips. So we do the same thing for the brass. Let's pick some red, assign track colors to groups, assign color to tracks, the woodwinds, and the percussions. So currently we have 11 tracks in each section. So I think it would be nice to simply have 20 available. So let's highlight another 9. Let's hit Command and D to duplicate these. Do the same for the brass and the woodwinds and the percussions. At this point, I quickly want to mention, if you don't want to build this all by yourself, you can download this. All you have to do is hop over to my Audio Artist Academy. And once you're in here, hop over to the classroom, then hit the Tools and Resources section. And right here in this section, you will find the template that you can download for free. And as always, you will find the link in the video description below. Another great feature that I like about Live 12 is that you not only see your bars up here, you also see your track time down here by default. So just in case if you set up these collections here, you can simply hop to my effects section here and then drag and drop, for example, the virtual mix rack just simply on this group track here. And let's add, for example, a simple compressor, setting the output gain a little bit and the peak reduction, and use this as default compression on our general strings track here. Now, if I would like to have the exact same plugin settings on my other group tracks, simply click this little window down here, hit Command C, then I hop over to my brass track, click the little window here, hit Command V, and there you have it. And then of course you can do the same thing for all the other group tracks. So I already did that for the woods and the percussions. What I finally want to do is add mastering limiter. So I pick this FGX2 here and simply drag and drop it onto my main bus. Set the ceiling a little bit, the ratio, just give it some gain, and we're good to go. And just in case if you wonder why I set random values, because simply I do not care, because I don't believe that any preset works for everything. You want to test around, you want to experiment with your music, and then after a while you will find your working default settings. So just as a little advice, if you use presets, no matter if it's called Bob Ross Ultimate Mastering Setting, it doesn't mean that these are the ultimate mastering settings for your music. So always test around. If you use presets, use it as a foundation and then change the values to find out what works for you and what doesn't. Now let's make this session available as a template. So what you do next is hop over to File, Save Live Set as Template. And then it will jump to your user library, templates, and then you can name this, for example, Foundation Template version 1. Hit Enter. And now when you hop over to templates, you see it here in the list. Now the great thing, again, as mentioned in the beginning, is the following. Not only can you set this now, for example, by hitting right click as your default live set, you can also open this template. And assuming this would be a different session that we have open right now, and you work on rock music, for example, but suddenly you realize, hey, I just want to have all my brass instruments in here, you simply drag and drop the brass folder into your session. Also, let's assume you wanted to start with an empty session because of inspiration and motivation, blah, 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 but suddenly you realize, oh, it would be awesome to just have my entire orchestral template within this session. You simply drag and drop this entire template folder onto the arrangement window right into your session. And I think this video decently shows how easy it is to set up an orchestral template or a foundation template or basic template within Ableton Live 12. And without hyping too much, I honestly have to say that I fell in love with Live 12 a little bit. So let's see how it will work out in the long run, but it already looks really promising to me. So again, thank you so much for your time. Make sure to check out the Audio Artist Academy. We are close to 500 members. It would be awesome to see you over there. Thanks again and talk soon.